Well, ladies and gentlemen, we finally got at least the VP to go on a Republican network. Obviously, Kamala Harris has denied. She has refused to debate Donald Trump on Fox News. Walz and Harris really haven't done any interviews, but after that debate, apparently MSNBC was talking about it. Jen Psaki, they were like, oh, they're going to really send out Tim Walz and let him be himself. And I guess this is the first step. You can see this is Fox News Sunday. This is something that JD Vance, I mean, he's done like this 10, 11 different times. This is like Walz's first time on an opposing network. We're going to get to Kamala Harris's schedule this week. It's hilarious. She's going to be on The View. No, guys. She's going to be on The View. She's going to be on Colbert. Remember Stephen Colbert? I don't have my glasses here. Stephen Colbert rips off his glasses like rage quits. But yeah, she'll be there. I mean, she's going on these just liberal, just disgusting networks and call her daddy. But look at this. Tim Walz responds when confronted, because he's on Fox now. He's actually going to get confronted about something, about his continuous lies. I don't think people care. Let's see the context to this.
Indicated he didn't like it either. Listen, before we go, because I wish that we had a full hour, I want to give you a chance, because you called yourself a knucklehead this week, to talk about some of your mistakes.
Yeah. And that's really a strategy. It's like, I'm a knucklehead. I'm the dumb white guy. I stumble around. Remember, Kamala made fun of him because he didn't want to have spicy food and then told him to go suck on a cantaloupe.
You've modified your story or explained that you misspoke about things involving your military rank, about carrying a weapon in war, your 1995 DUI arrest, using IVF to have your beautiful children, Gus and Hope, being in Hong Kong and China in the summer of 1989 during the Tiananmen events. A lot of people would say they couldn't get away with saying, I'm just too passionate, my grammar's not right, I'm a knucklehead. What do you say to the American people who think, I don't know that I can trust this guy with all those modifications to be the potential commander-in-chief of this country?
Yeah, well, I think they heard me. They heard me the other night speaking passionately about gun violence and misspeaking. And I got to be honest with you, Shannon, I don't think people care whether I used IUI or IVF when we talk about this. What they understand is Donald Trump would resist them.
Right, but that's not an answer. You're immediately skirting the question and talking about Trump and using the rhetoric against Trump. But that's not even, the question doesn't have anything to do with policy on what Trump's going to do. The question is, why should the American people trust you when we've shown substances? We've got a list of you lying constantly. You're not answering the question. The question has nothing to do about what Donald Trump will do, because obviously you think Kamala and yourself are going to be way better than Trump. We know that. It's not a policy question. It's about you lying constantly about your history. It's about you being confronted on it and then continuously lying. So see how this is what they do. This is the strategy. It's to immediately not answer the question and say, oh, it's Trump, he's the big bad guy. The question, it doesn't have anything to do with policy. It's about you lying over and over again. There's nothing about Trump. You can say you're going to have better policy than Trump. Obviously, you think that. That's fine. There's not, so understand what they're doing. It's important to explain this.
Those things. Look, I speak passionately. I had an entire career, decades before I was in public office. They know, and I'm very proud of my 24 years in service and my record. I have never disparaged someone else in this, but I know that's not what Donald Trump does. They disparage.
And so it's more Trump, but there's no actual accountability. He doesn't even take like you would think the strategy would be, I'm sorry, but he doesn't even say that. There's not even, okay, I've misspoke a few times. I've got a long history. I'm an older guy, although I don't even think he's that older. But listen, there's no accountability to it. It's just constant blame Trump. Trump's the guy that calls everyone big bad names. I don't do anything that's bad. And he's not going to take any accountability for his continuous lies. You've also got this. Let's see.
Finder, a website that helps women find access, says abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in Minnesota. There is no ban.
And this is what he got confronted with.
Or a limit on abortion in Minnesota based on how far along in a pregnancy you are. You signed the bill that makes it legal through all 9 months. Is that a position you think Democrats should advocate for nationally?
Look, the vice president and I have been clear. The restoration of Roe versus Wade is what we're asking for.
But that law goes far beyond Roe v. Wade.
To make
right, it's apples to oranges. What she brought up was different than Roe v. Wade.
The law is very clear. It does not change that. That was been debunked on every occasion.
But wait, let's agree. What you signed is there's not a single limit through 9 months of pregnancy. Roe had a trimester framework that did have limits through the pregnancy. The Minnesota law does not have that.
This puts the decision with the woman and her health care providers. The situation we have is...
Well, isn't that the issue? There has to be a limit in which you can have the abortion. Otherwise, the baby is too developed I mean, I don't think you should have it at all, but I'm just saying he's not answering the question. That doesn't mean anything to put the decision. Again, he's just not answering.
Is when you don't have the ability of healthcare providers to provide that, that's where you end up with a situation like Amanda Zaworski in Texas, where they are afraid to do what's necessary. This doesn't change any.
And again, with these situations, they're very sad. But when you use exceptions to the rule, that's not a good argument. When you use something that happens less than 1% of the time when it comes to what happens during an abortion, you can't argue exceptions. What they do is they'll always use very sad situations and argue it. And I agree, it's very sad, but you're arguing things that are less than 1% of the time. That you can't use that in an argument when you're talking about all 100% of the cases. And then you point to the 1% to where it's really bad, but what about the other 99%?
Anything. It puts the decision back on to the woman, to the physicians, and we know that this is simply
right, and there should be limits. That's the problem.
Something to be brought up. To be very clear, Donald Trump's asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wait,
that's wrong.
And again, we don't see this as a winning campaign.
He has said repeatedly that he will not sign a national abortion ban. Are you calling that just?
I think he said he'd veto it, too.
It's a flat-out lie.
Yes, of course, and Senator Vance has in the past said so too. Now look, they may see this.
Yeah, and Kamala said she wanted to ban fracking in the past. So do you? Oh, what if she asked him that? Oh, ask him that. So you just said that because of what Vance said 5 years ago, he wanted an abortion ban. You cited that as a reason why Trump wants one, even though he's saying he doesn't now. Kamala right now is saying she wants no ban on fracking, but she said she wanted a ban 4 years ago. She was the most liberal, the most liberal senator 5 years ago. So does she still have those same positions? Does she want the migrants, the prisoners to get free health care when they change sexes? So she still wants that? Because you see, it's just these arguments they're nonsensical.
As an election issue, we see it as a right of women to make their own bodily decisions. And that's what the states like.
Right. And there has to be a limit because we value human life at a certain point. And once it gets developed, you can't do that. It's not permitted. And even Roe v. Wade says that. That's why there's limits.
Like my state have the ability to put that in. States like Georgia force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman. So let's be very clear. Trying to cut hairs on an issue on this is not where the American public's at. They want the restoration of Roe versus Wade. Vice President Harris said she would sign it. That's what we'll do when we're elected.
But to be clear, the Minnesota law is far beyond Roe v. Wade. And about the Amber Thurman case in Georgia, her family has, and it's tragic, she is a young mother who left behind a young son. But what her family has said is it was a complication from an abortion pill that she received. And she didn't get proper care when she went to a Georgia hospital, which had multiple opportunities to intervene there. Her own attorney, the family's attorney, says it wasn't the Georgia law, it was the hospitals. What he
Wow, so they lied about that too, she's saying.
Claims is malpractice, not treating her when she clearly showed up in distress and still had the byproducts of her pregnancy because of that rare complication from the abortion pill. So
Walz is getting crushed again.
Just to be clear on the Georgia law and how her family and her attorney sees it. Again.
Well, I did want to see what his response was. That, to be fair, they cut the clip before he had a response, but there is that situation. You've got this thing with the hurricane. 26 of the 28 North Carolina counties wrecked by the hurricane voted for Trump in 2020. The total votes were over 500,000 for Trump and 113K for Biden. Now, guys, my stance on this hurricane situation originally was it's not a big deal. Well, no, the hurricane's really bad. It's really tragic. But my stance was we're still a month away from the election. The people will vote. And then I started seeing liberals gloating about the fact that this is going to possibly cause lower turnout for Trump. And so obviously this is a terrible situation. What happened with this hurricane, it's historic flooding. We've never seen flooding in North Carolina like this from a hurricane that far inland. And I mean, that is a huge voter difference. I mean, obviously the counties, there's going to be more Republican counties than Democrat, but that's over 400K votes in North Carolina. And so obviously these people have so much on their plate. They're trying to rebuild, and you've got the election upcoming. And so you are starting to see liberals like Democratic strategist David Axelrod gloat about the fact that some of these Trump supporters might not be able to make it to the polls, and this could be a big issue. So this is something that we're watching. The good news is it's not like it's happening 5 days before where everyone's overwhelmed and, you don't think to vote. You're trying to rebuild your life. Obviously, they're still going to be rebuilding in a month, but at least there's some time. I know there's another hurricane coming. There's a lot of talk about weather manipulation. I'm not going to get into that in this video, But that is a huge vote difference. I mean, so it did. People, because they were originally saying, oh, Asheville, it's very liberal. That's where it hit the biggest. And they were trying to dispel all the conspiracies about that, saying Asheville is liberal. Well, yes, but I mean, overall, when it comes to the ones that were affected, at least according to this data, 527K Trump votes versus 113 Biden votes. That's, 85 to 15% in terms of overall votes, 90-10. It's pretty crazy. And then you've got this, you've got the guy. This is Elon Musk tweeting out just amazing, badass, dark MAGA hat. Tweet from this liberal. This is the guy who claimed he wanted to make Twitter neutral and free of political bias. What was it, like 3 months ago? And so this is how dense these people are. The difference is you had in 2021, it was a 99-1, 99% of the Twitter employees, the ones making the decisions to ban things, they were liberal, because we know that via their donations and their records, that 99% of the money that they donated, Twitter employees went to Democratic parties in the 2018 midterms. And in 2020, it was the same thing in terms of the election. So the people making the ban decisions were liberal. What we have now is we have Elon Musk, who owns Twitter. He is more conservative, but he doesn't ban people based on their political ideology like liberals were doing. What was happening in 2021 is you would have conservatives get banned. They'd say, why are we banned? And then the answer is, oh, you're conservative, you're radical, you're spreading misinformation. Just like when they said the Hunter Biden laptop was misinformation and disinformation when it wasn't. They would use those trigger words. So the difference is, it's not that they're politically biased, it's that the people presiding and making the decisions in 2021, they were banning people based on their political ideology. Even though Elon Musk is more conservative, he's not banning liberals based on their political ideology. And we've got like 100 substance. Remember 2021 when they banned Trump, their version of the Reichstag fire, when Trump wanted on January 3rd, he said in a transcript, it's come out, he said, I want there to be active duty soldiers guarding the Capitol. It's going to be a big event. Make sure you have as much as possible. Bring the National Guard. The National Guard never comes, and they end up having what liberals wanted. They wanted there to be an insurrection on the U.S. Capitol. They wanted there to be very bad things that would happen so they could use that, just like Hitler used the Reichstag fire to impose laws, and that's what they did against Trump, to stop the MAGA movement and to ban him off of social media and to strip his First Amendment right on the internet, because they don't believe the First Amendment exists on the internet. And so this is a very dense point. He's saying that, oh my God, Elon Musk wanted it to be neutral. Elon Musk just doesn't want that you to be banned for your political ideology. And so in 2021, you can have a liberal-leaning system, but when you ban people and claim it's misinformation and disinformation, like the Hunter Biden laptop leak, like all the stuff with the vaccine and banning all the doctors who were against that because you didn't want that, and that was not the government narrative because they wanted everyone to get vaccinated. What the situation now is, Elon Musk is right-wing, but he doesn't ban leftists who disagree with him because it goes against the Republican narrative. That's the difference. So it's a very dense thing to say, well, just because Elon's conservative, he's a hypocrite. No, Elon he doesn't ban people that disagree with him unless they commit rule violations, like the J.D. Vance dossier, when liberals falsely said that, oh, the sham reporter that doxed J.D. Vance shouldn't have been banned. No, you can't dox people, you dumbasses. So and he doxed them with that dossier, and that's why the reporter got banned. So either way, that's just the situation on how I view that. You've also got this New York Times. This is New York Times if they weight their polls based on how wrong they were in 2020, which is pretty crazy. You can see Harris goes from a +4. Wait, I don't even think Harris is +4 in a New York Times poll recently? Or is this a net average? I don't think that's true. Harris is serious. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. But Harris goes from +4 to Trump +1. Michigan goes from Harris +1 to Trump +1. Wisconsin goes from Harris +2 to Trump +1. North Carolina goes from Trump +3 to Trump +6. Arizona's going to Trump from Trump +5 to Trump +3. Georgia, Trump +4 to Trump +6. So really girthy leads in North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, and slight leads in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin if you adjust it. And New York Times wasn't really that far off in 2020. They weren't one of the horribly bad pollsters. They were still off, just like all of them. They all underestimated Trump in 2020, but it's not like New York Times was the worst one of them all. They're just saying if they adjust it, 5 out of the 6 states even trend more to Trump than they currently are. The only one that doesn't is Arizona, and Trump would still win that by 3 points. We've got maybe an estimation here. When you look at the mobile devices, there were around 54,000 So understand, if there's 54,000 mobile devices tracked at the rally in Butler, that's not counting the people without phones. And also sometimes they put their phones away, they don't bring them. And it also doesn't account like children, because most of the children don't have phones. And some people go to the rallies with their kids. They've got like 4 or 5 kids. You're talking about at least, and it's been reported over 100K, at least 80K, 90K confirmed, over 54,000 phones at this rally. So it's 90, 100K, I would say, pretty easily. This is what Jen Psaki said. A big shift coming with the Kamala Walz campaign. They're taking more risks. And to be fair to her, I mean, yes, Walz going on Fox, it's like, we've never seen something like that. So maybe they are doing a little bit different. And yes, that is desperation for sure. Shifting this drastically this late in the game shows that your internal numbers are not good. Even the public numbers are not good for the liberals. I've gone over that several different times. Brian Stelter explaining "Call Her Daddy." It's usually about sex and relationships, sometimes risque, even raunchy conversations about sex. Well, it's about thoughts, yes. And that's where Harris is going. And it's for younger girls. And they talk about, having sex like 50, 60 different times. It is disgusting. And you see some of the clips from that. And Harris is going on there to talk to these girls about, reproductive rights and things like that. And it's about abortion, and you can have sex unprotected and you don't face any consequences. With Trump and with JD Vance, there's going to be consequences for that because they value life. And you just have to understand, with something like abortion, imagine what our creator would think of how we devalue life just for sexual pleasure. It's crazy. There's consequences for when you get mouth pleasure and you eat a bunch of fucking food, you get really fat and unattractive. When it comes to sex, there's also consequences. It feels really good, but then you're going to have to possibly, if you don't do it safe, if you don't protect yourself, you don't have protected sex, you potentially have a child, which is a ton of work, obviously. And that's why you need to be safe it's not this thing where, we can have it at any point and then just have an abortion. Well, no, that you have to value the life that you create as a human being. It's so sacred, but we don't do that at all. Think about what our creator would think of how we devalue that just for 10 minutes of sexual pleasure. It is disgusting, but that argument never gets used. And now you've got this call her daddy bullshit. She's talking about reproductive rights. Well, how about be very safe when you have sex? And you really should save that, because women devalue themselves when they have all this sex with different people. It is very sad, but she's just going to go on there and be like, Trump wants to, make it illegal for you to get an abortion. Well, is that really the worst thing? Maybe we should not be doing this with people that, have these one night stands and things like that. Maybe that's actually good. But that's not even what Trump wants. They lie about that. Trump's liberal compared to many Republicans on abortion because he's trying to win. And he said it's just a state's issue. And I would even possibly veto a national ban on it. And obviously it's a very complicated issue, because the point of it is that people should not be, you have to be more safe with what you do. That's really what it is. But then they make this whole thing about women's rights. Well, no, they have the right to have sex, but there's consequences. You have the right to do anything. Everyone's free until they commit a crime, and then there's consequences for the crime. So listen, it is what it is, but we'll have to see. She's going on this show. She's going on Call Her Daddy. She's going on Colbert. Oh yeah, here's The View. I was talking about this on my stream. I've never once watched The View where I've turned the TV to The View. I don't think I've ever seen The View once. The only time I've seen The View is clips on Twitter. That is it. I've never once actively watched The View on television. Never once. Stephen Colbert, maybe that'll be my first time. I'm kidding. I'll just see the clips. Stephen Colbert, I did see part of her 60 Minutes interview. They're releasing little segments of it. I think it's coming tonight because it is Sunday night. They do the 60 Minutes interview. Stephen Colbert, obviously a total liberal lunatic who hates Trump. He's got the derangement syndrome like crazy. 60 Minutes. She could get some hard questions on that. Apparently, she's already struggling in the clips that I've seen. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.